He was part grifter, part showman, a man who could swindle you blind and still leave you thanking him afterward. His name was Jefferson Randolph Smith, but the world came to know him as Soapy Smith, a man whose scams were so slick he sold soap for $1 a bar, and people lined up to buy it. From Denver to Creede and finally to the rugged gold rush town of Skagway, Alaska, Soapy Smith built a criminal empire not with bullets, at first, but with brains, bribes, and bluff. This is the story of the West's greatest con man and the legendary showdown that finally brought him down. Jefferson Smith was born in 1860 in Coweta County, Georgia, to a respected Southern family. The Civil War had just ended, and the South was reeling. His father, a former attorney, struggled to rebuild a life. By the time Jeff was a teen, the Smith family had relocated to Texas, and while others chased honest work, young Jeff had other ideas. He realized something early: confidence could be just as powerful as violence. If you talked fast, smiled wide, and looked sharp, people would hand over their money willingly. It started small: rigged games of three-card Monte, loaded dice. But soon, Soapy would develop the scam that gave him his nickname and made him rich. A well-dressed man stands on a crate in a busy city square. He's holding a stack of bars of soap, claiming that inside one of them is a $100 bill wrapped and hidden. For $1 a bar, you could win big. Crowds formed fast. One man stepped forward, paid $1, opened the wrapper, and shouted in shock he'd won. Others rushed forward to buy their bar, but it was all a setup. The winner was part of the crew. The money bar had been planted, and Soapy, he pocketed every real dollar that hit his palm. He would run that same con again and again, from Texas to Kansas and finally to the booming frontier city of Denver, Colorado. By the early 1890s, Soapy Smith wasn't just a scam artist, he was a kingpin. Denver in the 1890s was a city on the rise, booming with money, vice, and wide-open corruption. Soapy took over entire blocks. He opened saloons, gambling halls, and fraudulent telegraph offices that took bets on fake horse races. He formed the Soap Gang, a crew of pickpockets, conmen, and enforcers, but his real genius: buying protection. Soapy paid off politicians, police chiefs, even judges. When someone tried to arrest him, charges vanished. His bribes bought him impunity. He even formed a fake law and order committee pretending to fight crime while running all of it from behind the scenes. They called him the boss of Denver's underworld. And yet he always maintained a sense of decorum. He dressed impeccably, tipped generously, donated to churches. He even claimed to run honest gambling. Of course, the odds were always in his favor. But as Denver cleaned up its image, Soapy's welcome began to wear thin. The reformers came knocking, so he left. Soapy fled to Creede, Colorado, a rough silver mining town. There he pulled the same tricks: scams, rigged games, and bribery. But his time there was short. After a major fire leveled part of the town, Soapy moved again. This time north, far north, to a wild new frontier where the law was thin and the gold fever hot. Skagway, Alaska. It was 1897 and the Klondike Gold Rush had just begun. Tens of thousands of prospectors flooded the region, most broke, desperate, and naive. To Soapy Smith, it was a paradise of suckers. Skagway was barely a town, just muddy streets, tents, and saloons. But Soapy saw opportunity. He opened Jeff Smith's Parlor, a saloon that doubled as his headquarters. His gang ran shell games, rigged roulette, and telegraph offices that scammed miners out of their gold before they even saw the claim site. Soapy installed himself as the unofficial mayor. He had the police in his pocket and even posed as a community leader, donating to charities and building a church with stolen money. He once told a reporter, "I consider myself the most honest man in Skagway. Everyone knows I steal." But Skagway's citizens were reaching their limit. A group of locals formed the Committee of 101, determined to drive Soapy and his gang out. It all came to a head on a summer night that would become legend. July 8, 1898. A young prospector had been swindled out of his gold by one of Soapy's rigged games. The citizens demanded it back. The Committee of 101 met at the Juneau Wharf to organize resistance, armed, angry, and ready to end Soapy's reign. But Soapy got wind of the meeting and didn't come to talk. He showed up with a Winchester rifle slung over his shoulder. Standing at the entrance to the dock was a man named Frank Reid, a surveyor and volunteer guard for the vigilante group. Accounts differ. Some say words were exchanged. Others say Soapy raised his gun without warning. What's certain is this: gunfire erupted. Frank Reid shot Soapy in the heart, but not before Soapy's bullet tore into Reid's groin and stomach. Both men collapsed. Soapy died within minutes. Frank Reid would die 12 days later from his wounds. The Soap gang scattered. The town erupted in celebration. The reign of Soapy Smith was over. They buried Soapy Smith in a simple grave outside the city limits of Skagway. The marker still stands. Jefferson R. Smith. Died July 8, 1898, aged 38 years. He lived fast, conned harder, and died the way he lived, bold, defiant, and in the spotlight. To some, he was a criminal, plain and simple. To others, he was a symbol of a dying age, when the line between outlaw and businessman, lawman and thief was pencil thin. He sold soap to the desperate, he bought power with gold, and he ran his game all the way to the grave. This was the legend of Soapy Smith, the con man king of Skagway,